Well, hello, everybody. It's great to be with you together through the Zoom. The next hour, we are going to be providing you home safety tips for adults who are aging in place. And this is a very important topic to Patti and myself. We have spent the last 10 years as business partners together, working with seniors to really help them understand that to stay in control of your life, you have to sometimes let go a little bit. So welcome to our presentation. Oh, you went too fast. Back. Go back.
There we go.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So Patti and myself, we are real estate professionals, and we have dedicated ourselves to working with seniors and really their families and their team of professionals to provide them with what we feel is the hopefully advice and insights as to aging in place with dignity and safety, and making sure that they stay in control of what their wishes are and not what other people tell them their wishes should be. So we are here to make the rest of your life the best of your life. We are going to spend a few minutes here on what we call the field of life. Unfortunately, the Padres aren't doing so well right now, but hopefully this will give you some good insights as to how we feel about the team that is necessary so that you age in place successfully, again, with dignity. So you are the owner of the team, okay? You own the team, and that's why you're in control. But you need good assistant coaches, you need a general manager, and you need players on the field. So briefly, you're the owner of the team, and then the general manager should be your estate planning attorney, because your estate planning attorney can really help you dictate who the players on the field should be and need to be to help you age successfully in your home. Professional fiduciary, you'll see on the left-hand side, you'll see it says professional fiduciary. Doesn't necessarily need to be a professional fiduciary. Who you are the fiduciary of your estate. And so are you able to properly manage and coach your team, or should you maybe possibly thinking about co-coaching or turning it over the day-to-day coaching to a professional or someone within your family? And you'll see we know life is going to throw you a curveball, and are you prepared? And something's going to happen while you age in place that is going to take you out of the day-to-day routine. And you really have to know the players on the field and have a team ready to go so that you stay in control. So again, if you're going around what we call the horn, which is the infield, CPA, financial advisor, and then over there at shortstop and third base, we can't stress this enough. If you have ever thought you have all of these great professionals in place, but who is your advocate for medical care and medical decision-making? Is it really your doctor? Is that the best person to have you in charge of your medical advice and medical care? Is it your family members? Are they doctors that can really give you inside advice? And an aging life specialist is a third-party expert in helping you navigate the medical field, the medical profession, and what may be the right source of information for you to age in place successfully. Patti and I have seen far too many people who really could stay in their home, but they're over-medicated, or they're getting not that the doctor's intentionally doing anything to mismanage them, but the doctors just don't have time. So an aging life specialist is someone who you can count on as a third-party professional to go with you to the doctor, to ask the hard questions of the doctor and the nurses, to say, is this really in the best interest of my client, so that they can stay home and age in place. And then we are going to talk quite a bit about home care and the cost of home care and how to properly navigate that. And then in the outfield, Patti's going to go into deep dive into really making your home safe. So you see over in left field, we talk about general contractors and organizers and interior designers. These are the people that you really need to line up to make sure that you can age in place safely. Center field are realtors, and right field is senior move manager, and that's if you ever decide to move out of your home. Real quickly, before we move on, over in the right-hand bottom, you see visitors dugout. It talks about senior living communities. And this presentation is all about aging in place. But we just don't know what the future is going to bring. So I highly, highly encourage you to at least visit senior communities near and around you just do it for the fun of it. They'll provide you with a great lunch, either dinner, they'll host you, they'll tour you around, just if in case, whether it's 5 years from now or 10 years from now or never, you have an understanding of the options that you have to choose from.
So before we go to the next slide, we're going to try and reload this because there's a little box, I'm told, in the lower corner here that does not want to go away. And I don't know where that box came from. So let's see if we can get rid of that and get that off the screen. Nope, it came right back. So, well, sorry about that, folks. We can't seem to get rid of that little box. Anyway, next screen. It's down here.
Oh. Senior stay or go, real quickly, that's what Patti and I focus in on, what stay or go, so you really understand your options, and we are going to provide you answers to those options today with a focus on aging in place successfully. So real estate options, thing to consider, aging in place and aging in your home successfully could also include what we call right sizing or downsizing. Whether you live in a very large 2-story or even in San Diego, a 3-story home, and there's lots of stairs, and that is just becoming overwhelming to navigate. What can we do to help you? Can you put in a chairlift or put in a lift? What can be done to help you navigate that? So aging in place is not just about staying in the current home. It also could be about aging in place in maybe a condominium or a smaller single-story home, or a 55+ community where you actually purchase the home and live there. Senior communities is really not the focus of this presentation. You come back in November and we will talk at length about what's going on in San Diego in terms of those several new communities have just been completed during the COVID period or are coming online. And then home share, we'll talk a little bit about that through the presentation.
Hi, Patti.
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to remove the box, I would recommend that you ask out or hit ESC at the in your keyboard. Yep. And you, instead of resuming slide, go to the bottom.
Okay.
Bottom right corner, and where you have the little square with a line underneath next to the zooming. No, more to the right. More. There.
Oh, that worked. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so some of the most common accidents that seniors experience who live independently are falls. Those are usually the number one. There are house fires, cooking, leaving the range on if you have a gas range, bed sores, infections, whether they be something visible externally or something internally, burns, reaching into the oven. I've done it myself, thinking that the mitt you have is long enough and it isn't. Or it might be too old and not really be protecting you. Lacerations and sprains. And so AARP just put out an article about aging in place and home safety considerations. And I want to read the quote from that article because I think it kind of sums it all up. The most important factors are one's safety and security. Provide improved lighting, easier access to cabinets, non-slipping floors, and special attention to potential hazards in the bath. Those are the best ways to get started on your plan to age in place successfully. So I thought that was kind of a good quote to summarize it all. AARP has also put together, I don't know if you can see this, it's called the Home Fit Guide, and you can get it from their website and download it for free. And it just talks about smart ways to make your home comfortable, safe, and a greater fit for people of all ages. So it's a nice resource to have. If you do at the end of this want us to email you a copy, you can reach out to us and we'll be happy to do that. So some of the warning signs that cause falls are loose rugs, especially area rugs, lack of accessible seating in the bathroom. You know, at one point in time, we were able to just put our leg up and shave our legs and not worry about falling over. That doesn't happen anymore. Lack of balance bars in the bathroom. Those are very, very important. And there's all kinds of balance bars on the market now that don't look institutional. They look actually like an accessory. Unsafe thresholds or cracks in your bath where they should be caulked. And again, poisonous materials, having those in the house, it's not really a good idea to have those in your home anymore. What you can do is you can declutter. And how can you declutter? It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming to everyone. But if you start just one room at a time, one drawer at a time, not go into the room and say, I need to do this whole room today. Do one drawer a day, and you'd be amazed at how much you can declutter. If you're overwhelmed, like this garage in the picture, then getting some help. There are plenty of people out there that you can work with who will help you declutter something like that and find things that you might not think are valuable, but that they happen to know are very valuable. So that's really important. The unfortunate part is during COVID, because of COVID and because of everybody cleaning out their house, places like Salvation Army and Goodwill won't pick up anymore. You have to bring your items to them, but they do have a number of drop-off locations throughout the county. The other thing is home safety tips we're going to get into here now, a little more specifically. So when you're going to remodel, what should you do? Well, first of all, there are contractors who are aging in place contractors. So they will have a specific certification called an aging in place contractor certification. You can ask around for recommendations. You can ask for references that you can contact of people that they've worked with. And you want to make sure they understand universal design, because universal design doesn't make it look institutional. It makes it safe and beautiful at the same time. So some of the ways to make your home accessible to all is to make sure that you have defined clear pathways. You have level walkways. You have very few entry steps. You have a very large house number. A covered entry isn't as important here in San Diego because we don't have a lot of bad weather. You have lever style handles and you can capture some solar energy if you're able to. So you see how big the numbers are here on this home. That's important. And why is that important? This is a home in North Park. Look what they did. Now that's an address. And the importance of that is if you need to call 911 or any kind of first responder, you want them to be able to find you quickly. If they cannot find your address, they cannot find you. So that's very, very important. In the bathroom, if you could do a floating counter where you're able to get your feet under here, because just say at some point in time, maybe you will be with a walker after you've had your hip replaced. And it would be nice to be able to get your feet under there to get closer to the counter. A taller toilet and taller counters. If you haven't had a taller toilet installed in your home, it's not much. It's only 3 inches, but it's huge. Once you have that installed in your home and you have to go and use a toilet that is the lower one, you'll feel like you're falling to the ground. It's that much of a difference, even though it's a small difference. The handle style faucets and shower and bath plumbing fixtures are easier to grab than something round that you have to grab. Low maintenance finishes, stone and granite and quartz and all those finishes have become very popular, but they require maintenance. They require being sealed, depending upon usage, some every 6 months. So that's something you have to be able to do. Ventilation, so that you don't get slippery surfaces. Try saying that 10 times fast. And you want to be able to not fall. Abundant lighting, ventilation, as we talked about, no step shower and a bench in the shower. And what we call balance bars, you may have heard them called grab bars. We like to call them balance bars. Something that you can hold on to, especially in the shower or the tub. So a tub and a shower like this, where there's no entry step, there's a little seat here, there's a balance bar in here. This has all that you need for that shower area that is safe. Put some technology in your home. Have a smart thermostat. That's very, very easy to have installed. HEPA filter if you have any allergies or asthma or difficulty breathing. Motion switches, so that if you are walking with a cane or a walker, you don't want to have to let go to turn on the light. A motion switch will turn the light on the minute you walk into the room. That's really important. Timers on your lamps, smart locks, internet videos, smartphones, a smart watch. The Apple Watch will actually, if you fall and have an abrupt hit, the Apple Watch will call 911. And you can say, I'm okay, or I need help. So if you're not willing to wear something like I fell and I can't get up, then an Apple Watch does multiple things for you and it helps make you safer. A Ring doorbell, so you're not opening your door to just anyone. They're really kind of fun. When they first came out and people weren't aware of them, it was actually more fun because you can kind of surprise somebody and start speaking with them and then they'd be like shocked. Now everybody kind of is aware of them. They kind of step back from the door. They don't always come up to your door, but it's still good to have as a safety feature so that you're not answering your door when you don't need to be. Making the building work harder for you is also important. There are plenty of motorized blinds and shades. A lot of the homes built in the 70s and 80s have windows above the tub. Now, when you were in your 40s, you could easily get in the tub or on the tub and change or open and close those shades and blinds. You don't want to be doing that anymore. You want to be safe. So having those motorized is important. Insulated windows helps keep the house warm in the winter and cool in the summer. Door assist mechanisms, a door that can automatically close on its own, or a door that you push a button to open on its own. Solar power if you're so inclined. Xeriscape landscaping, everybody keeps saying that's easier to maintain. I did my front yard that way, and it's actually been more work than it was to cut the grass, so I'm not sure about that one. Make sure all your smoke detectors are working. There should be a smoke detector on every level, and there should be a smoke detector in every single bedroom. There should be a carbon monoxide detector on both levels if you have a 2-level home. There should be a fire extinguisher in your kitchen. And if you want to do some passive heater cooling, you can do that. You might even do some solar lighting, and you might have some little cisterns to collect the little bit of rainwater we get here so that you can have some gray water irrigation to help out. We have found a company, actually there's a couple of companies out there. If you get to a point where a chairlift might not work, but an elevator would be better, and you need to retrofit it into your home, there are these elevators that you can put up against the wall. You can actually put them in the middle of a room. It's so that when it's on the first floor here, you see the little opening in the ceiling, and when it's on the second floor, you have the little platform on the floor. So those are really, there's so many options out there, so many options. This happens to be that little ARP home fit guide that I mentioned earlier. Again, it walks you through the dining area, entrances and exits, all aspects of your home to help make it safer for you. Yeah, you can always email us for a copy if you can't find it on the ARP website, not a problem.
So Patti has just spent time talking about the physicalness of what you can do to your home to make it age in place friendly so that you can stay in that home as long as possible. And if that is your goal, and for 95% of everybody, that is the goal, is to stay in their home as long as possible. At some point in time, you may need to bring in some assistance, what we call caregiving. And this is where I'm going to deep dive into what I would call the mental aspect of this. This is where things can get dicey and tricky in terms of bringing in the right caregiving support. Most people want to bring in the family member, and that is great, but that does create, if there's siblings and there's family dynamics, make sure that you have an open and honest discussion about the family dynamics of bringing in a son or a daughter or a cousin or a grandson or granddaughter into your home to be your caregiver. How are they working? Are they working for free, quote, quote? What is their expectations? What are your expectations? So have an open and so start the conversation now. If you don't have no need for caregiving, please start opening up that discussion with family members, all the family members. Because Patti and I, as I say, have been working in the senior space for over 10 years now. And the number one reason families will never celebrate Thanksgiving together again is the dynamics involved when someone becomes the caregiver for mom and dad. And then when mom and dad pass away, the expectations of what happens afterwards in terms of who's going to have that house, who's going to live in that house, the money, it becomes a real division point. So you want to age in place. We ask that you think about caregiving as an open and honest discussion. So is it a family member? Are you getting a referral from a friend? Are you going to interview agencies that do very deep dive background checks on the people that they're bringing into your home? Is it somebody you get through a church or a temple? Or is it somebody, God forbid, you just go and look on Craigslist and bring somebody into your home? And I hope everybody here who's listening is wise enough never ever to do that. Because again, there's just too many reasons that somebody's going to take advantage of you if you don't have a fully vetted individual coming into play. And then how do you pay for care? Do you have, and I understand there were a lot of people that just attended a long-term care insurance webinar or Zoom meeting. Again, remember we talked earlier about having an aging life specialist. Well, you may need someone to help you, guide you through making sure that you get your long-term insurance and long-term care insurance when you think you need it. Are you able to qualify? And again, it's an insurance company, so they may put up some resistance to you have some stuff like that, resistance to be actually qualifying. So Patti has a little insight on that.
So there was just an article that we found that talked about long-term care insurance and how it's really out of reach for the middle class, which is really kind of sad because they're quoting that 7 out of 10 people will need long-term care during their lifetime. So we are no longer of a generation where we can plan to pass away and have an executor take over our estate. We are now of a generation that needs to plan to be incapacitated because we're living longer. Modern science has allowed us to live longer, which is a good thing if you're really living and enjoying versus if you can't. But affordability is really, really the most difficult part of long-term care insurance. And they say that the older adults today have generally lower retirement savings. And of course, there are much fewer pensions than there were in the greatest generation. And that's adding to the reason why it's making it so unaffordable. But there's about 8 million middle income people aged 75 and older that are caught in the gap between those who qualify for Medicaid and those who are wealthy enough to comfortably pay for in-home care or quality assisted living care in a community. There are only 7.5 million Americans that have some type of long-term care insurance. That's not very many, because someone today turning 65 has a 70% chance of needing some type of long-term care. That's pretty good odds of needing it. So the projected 14.4 million middle income older adults in 2029, 60% will have mobility limitations and 20% will have high health care and functional needs. Now, what does that mean? That means there's 7 aids of daily living. That's taking your medication, that's bathing, that's dressing, that's all of those things that you do as habit on a daily basis. Those functional needs are those needs that you may need assistance with. And many of our elders will need some sort of regular assistance, yet 54% of them will not be able to afford it. There is a dwindling supply of family caregivers because a lot of people are caught between taking care of young children, taking care of their parents, being at work. Excuse me. And by the end of the decade, 24 million Americans will need long-term care. Get some water.
Okay. Anyway, this is a very important slide for aging in place. And we want to, if you have an estate plan and you haven't brought it off the shelf in a couple of years, especially during this COVID period, I encourage you to go get your estate plan, take it off the shelf, go see your estate planning attorney, and then have that family meeting. And I know this is where we always get hung up, or not so much, people get hung up, is to have that honest discussion. Well, son, daughter, granddaughter, grandson, how do you feel about this in terms of wanting to come in and take care of us for 3 hours a day, 3 days a week? Most people, versus going to an agency and interviewing the agency to see what type of care and the cost of care. Again, in San Diego County, you're looking at around $25 to probably $30 an hour to have hourly care come in. And of course, if you need 24/7, then that's a whole different money figuration.
Yeah, it can get very expensive very, very, very quickly.
So this, again, not before we leave this slide, just if you have any questions of us on this one, we would love to take some, afterwards, we can take a lot of questions on caregiving, because we will reiterate it and reiterate it and reiterate it. We can physically get your house in order. That's not the hardest part. What's the hardest part is the mental aspect of realizing that maybe you need help in the home. Everybody's proud, everybody has pride. And that is where we try to have that open discussion with people to say, you know what, 3 hours a day to give me some relief, whether you're the caregiver or the one receiving care, to get some relief and get some respite, to have someone come in and help you. And then again, how is that dynamics going to work if it's a family member or a non-family member, vetting the right person, getting the right person into the home to help you. So this is, so now we've talked about the physicalness of the house. We've talked about the mental aspect of bringing in caregiver. Well, now where's the money come from? And we know for a fact, everybody's pretty well aware that the prices of home in the last 2 years have gone up, depending on where you're at, easily 20%, maybe 40%, depending on where you're located. And if you've got a Pacific Ocean view or whatever the case may be. So you've just gained a lot of wealth in your home over the last 2 years. And a lot of people may want to use that wealth to pull money out to do those beautiful finishes that Patti mentioned in remodeling the home, which is great to make it age in place friendly. So you can use a reverse mortgage money. You can pull the money out of your home, use it to remodel your home, use it to go on a trip. If we get to do that again, you can do whatever you want with it. But understand, again, have that open communications with your team, whether it's your family as a team or your financial advisor, your CPA, of how a reverse mortgage works. You do not lose title to the property. You are still on title. You are just not making, you pull out $300,000-$400,000 out of, you get $300,000-$400,000, and now the interest is accruing on that money. You're not making a payment on it at this point in time, but it's interest accruing on interest. It's a rather expensive way to do what you want to do. So look at your options. Is the reverse mortgage the best way to go? And here's an example. If you're 70 years old and you're in good health and you want to age in place and you want to remodel your house, you can go do a reverse mortgage. And then odds are 10, 12 years pass and now you're 82 and 83 and you just cannot stay in that home anymore. And you have to either go to a senior community or you just have to move in with family members or something is going to cause you to not be able to stay in that home anymore. Now, 12 years have passed, and given we know how fast 12 years go now, it was different when we were 10, 12 years old versus when you're 70 years old, how time goes. Now that interest has accrued, interest on top of interest has accrued. And now your equity in your home, if the appreciation of your home hasn't kept up with the increase in your mortgage debt, then your equity is getting smaller and smaller. So when you sell the home, and again, no one has the crystal ball, will you have enough equity in your home to pull out to help you move into that senior community? Because again, that's it's $8,000 to $10,000, $12,000, $14,000 a month to live in a very high-end senior community. That's the monthly payment, and that's not, insurance doesn't cover that. So that's quite a bit of after-tax cash flow that you may need in your 80s that you right now are going, I'm not worried about it because you're in your early 70s and you're in good health and you want to age in place. So we're not saying no to reverse mortgage. We just say that you have a very clear understanding of how they work and that if you leave that house, you are going to either have to have the kids somebody either has to refinance that reverse mortgage and get that reverse mortgage paid off, or the home has to be sold. So just understand how they work. And again, we're happy to take questions on that at the end as well. Because again, we want to make sure that you have enough capital until throughout your life. And this has changed quite dramatically over the last couple of years as well. Capital gains. Again, because of the huge increase in the valuation of real estate here in the whole country, not just San Diego, you may be subject to capital gains tax that you really weren't planning on prior to the last couple of years. So if it's a husband and wife and you own your home and you want to sell your home, the gain that you can exclude on the sale of a personal residence is $500,000. If it's just a single individual selling the home, the amount of gain that you can exclude is up to $250,000 on the sale of your residence. What does that exactly mean? Well, you bought the home 30 years ago for $250,000 and now it's worth $2 million. So that's a $1,750,000 in theoretical gain. And you can exclude $500,000 of that if you're a married couple. Now, again, you can add all the improvements you made to the home over the last 20 or 30 years, assuming you have some decent record keeping, remodeling, painting, refurbishing, enhancements that you've done to the property over those 20, 30 years.
They have to be major improvements. They cannot just be something that you would do to enhance the home, like painting. If you did some major painting, like the whole interior during a remodel, then you could, but just to paint a room to touch it up or change the color, that doesn't qualify.
So, I mean, we are talking about aging in place, so we're not really planning on selling, and we get that. But why not at this point in time, at least have the discussion with your CPA, whoever does your taxes, to get an idea of the impact that capital gains, today's rate, which probably is going to go up over the next 2 to 3 or 4 years, of what impact that would have on the net that you would receive on the sale of the property based on a certain price. And again, Patti and I can put together estimated net sheets for you in terms of, because obviously the cost of selling real estate and things like that, to give your CPA a better understanding of what's involved. Proposition 19 that was passed 2020, I lost track of time, 2020 really did change the game quite a bit. So Patti, you have a better understanding.
So what it did, so with Proposition 60 and Proposition 90, you were able to, as someone of 55 or older, transfer your property tax from your existing home to a new home of equal or lesser value one time in your life. But unfortunately, what was happening was that there were a lot of people who lost their homes to fire, or there were a lot of people who had lost their homes to other, Mother Nature circumstances, let's just say. And so what Prop 19 does is Prop 19 allows you to do that transfer of your tax base throughout the state of California, not just to those counties that would allow it in the past. And it allows you to do it 3 times. So if you are a fire victim, for instance, you can transfer your tax base of the home that burned to a new home. And it doesn't necessarily have to be of equal or lesser value. It could be of greater value, and then they'll adjust your taxes based on the difference of that greater value. So there is a whole formula to it. But what Prop 19 took away, it took away the option of transferring your tax base to someone who's going to inherit your property, unless they make it their primary residence. So in San Diego County, there are a lot of properties that mom and dad had purchased back in the 20s that they have turned over to their children, who are now using it as investment property and hanging on to mom and dad's tax base. Well, they can't do that anymore, not unless they're going to move into that property as their primary residence. So again, you want to speak with your CPA and your financial planner to understand the consequences of Prop 19.
So just be careful that you don't just go ahead and put your children's name on your property and thinking that that's going to solve the issue. So you really have to, again, if you go back to the I think it's the second or third slide where you have the field of life, and over again on second base and first base is the CPA and financial advisor. You really have to take into, aging in place is all about understanding the financial consequences of what's going to happen down the road. So please go to see about Prop 19. Step up in basis. Again, if you have your home properly titled in your trust, and then upon passing that, as of right now, the tax law could change.
Yeah, the Biden administration wants to take this away.
This is something that may go away. So you get what we call a step up in basis, where whoever inherits your property could sell it at no capital gain. So you bought it for $250,000, it's worth $2 million, your children inherit it. And instead of having to pay capital gains on the new value versus what you purchased it for, they get a proper step up in basis, again, under current estate planning law, but it has to be properly titled. Again, if you've done a refinance in the last couple of years because of these incredible low rates, are you positive that your home has gotten back into your trust properly titled? Because again, too many probates are happening because people did not properly title their home when it came to after a refinance. So again, pull it off the shelf, get your estate plan off the shelf, spend that time, it's worth a couple hours of time, whatever the cost may be. We can tell you right now, if you end up in a probate situation, the cost is astronomical versus trying to do it right up front. And we can answer some questions on that after. So recommendations, Patty and I will kind of each chime in on this one. Give away treasures now. Patty just has it. She's just spent how many on Citra? We don't have to give address. Where we had to go and hire someone to individually identify thousands of pieces in this home because all the family was fighting over who got what we call the tchotchkes, the stuff, because you had to make it equal amongst the 4 or 5 siblings, right? If there's $50,000 worth of stuff in the house, forget the property. Well, each child gets $10,000 valuation of the stuff. Well, how do you value trinkets and little tchotchkes? So somebody had to pay thousands of dollars to go and do a physical inventory of that. So either you designate it now while you're alive and go around and get little stickies and write it down in a ledger.
Or give it away.
Or give it away and let your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, whoever really thrives on that thing, that stuff, give it to them right now and watch them enjoy it if they want that. Again, you may be a little disappointed that not everybody wants what you treasure, So just have an open and understanding mind that, you know, the millennials of the world really aren't into fine china anymore. And just accept that for what it is. You want to take?
Having a medical advocate is huge. One of the biggest issues with our seniors today is over medication. You know, you used to have the family physician who came to your home, and then you had the family physician that you went to who took care of all your needs. And then we got sophisticated and have all the specialists. And it's great to have the specialists, but unfortunately, they don't always speak to or with one another. So you may have a cardiologist that will prescribe one medication, and you may have a pulmonologist who prescribes another medication. And hopefully, when you go have them filled at the pharmacy, the pharmacist's computer will tell you if there is a drug interaction between those two medications, but that's not always the case. And if you are not taking care of your medication yourself because you can't and someone's doing it for you, has that person asked the question, is there an interaction with the medication that someone's on? Or if you have someone you know and love who's falling all the time, has their medication changed recently? Does their medication need to change? You know, just because you were put on high blood pressure medicine 30 years ago, doesn't mean that medication is going to work for you for the next 30 years. You may need a new medication. So having a medical advocate is huge.
Financial decisions, as we said at the very beginning of this, sometimes to stay in control, you need to let go. And it is very overwhelming what you get in the mail and trying to, like you've had medical issues, you've been in the hospital, medical bills, they keep coming. You think Medicare is going to pay for them. You think your insurance is going to pay for it. So there is just an overwhelming amount of paperwork that comes through our lives on a day in and day out basis. So you have to stay in control, and you have to make sure whoever is working with you on these issues is someone has been vetted and trusted with in 110%. But maybe for you to enjoy each and every day in a little less stress, because a little less stress is going to allow you to stay in that home longer, because you are not going to have that fall, because you get a good night's sleep, you wake up feeling refreshed, and you're not eating properly. The refrigerator is full with the right food. Maybe giving up that day-to-day drudgery of accounting affairs may make your life easier. So again, there are accounting firms that can handle this. There are what we call California, there are private fiduciaries that are third-party vetted to help you handle your financial affairs. Your CPA may want to take that on for some kind of cost. But again, what is your health worth, right? If you don't have your health, what is the money worth? So we're not asking you to go and splurge it all, but we're asking you to make some really assessments of what would give you less stress so that you can stay in your home. Because again, once you have that fall and break that hip, that's usually, you're not going to be able to stay in that home much longer. So giving up some control to stay in control is what we're advocating.
Yearly home maintenance. It's easy to have one light bulb go out and figure it's not a big deal because you have 3 more. And then the second one goes out and you say it's not a big deal because you have 2 more. And then the third one goes out and you're down to 1. So it's just little things like that, making sure your smoke detectors are working, making sure your carbon monoxide detectors are working, making sure you have a pest inspection every year. You know, termites swarm in Southern California twice a year. They're everywhere in Southern California. It doesn't matter how old or how new your home is. So stay on top of those things. Those are things that you can do to maintain your home and feel more comfortable and safe in your home. Also feel comfortable with professional assistance. Don't ever be afraid to ask for help. I know we like to be independent. We all do. It's really hard not to say, I can still do this myself. But sometimes getting that professional assistance makes a huge difference. We just, for instance, worked with a professional placement person to find a great board and care, memory care for my mother-in-law. You know, we could have done the research. We could have gone and visited all these places. We could have done all that on our own. But this person was extremely knowledgeable and helped us narrow it down to 4 places that we could go visit and interview and know that we were making the right decisions. So there's tons of professionals out there who do a lot of stuff that you would never even think they do, like the professional declutterers, the professional senior move managers, the placement personnel. There's tons of professionals out there to assist. Sometimes we just don't know where to turn to find them.
Can you talk about home inspection?
Go ahead.
So in addition, Patty talked about having a termite, and again, we could talk about an hour just on termites and having the right inspector and the right inspections done, because what they say they do, they don't always do. But over and above that, just like you take your car in maybe every 3,000 to 5,000 to 7,000 miles for a tune-up, do you have a tune-up on your home in terms of a yearly inspection by a licensed professional? It's going to be anywhere between $400 to $700 to have a 70-page report that's generated to allow you to understand what is going on in your home in terms of things, little things before they become big problems. You know, we just had a home where we had an inspection to find out there was a gas leak. There were people living in this home that did not know they had a gas leak in their home. So have a yearly maintenance. Is it worth? I highly recommend it. It's worth $700. Do you have to do everything they recommend? Of course not. But if it's a health and safety issue, you may want to address it again with the idea that if you address it early on, it doesn't become a problem. If you find a small, if he or she finds a small leak, we can address it before mold develops in the walls. Things like that, electrical issues, plumbing issues. As I say, with everything, just like anything else, we age, the house ages, and don't think that everything lasts forever. So a yearly maintenance of a yearly inspection of the home, and then taking what you want out of there to get fixed over a course of a year can really allow you to stay in that home longer because it's safe and sane. Questions?
We have a question. If a home is in a trust and is sold to fund a senior living situation, can the proceeds stay in the trust and come out to pay as you go and not have to contend with capital gains?
I think I understand the question. Your home, I mean, if you are the trustee of your trust and you sell a home, no, that home, that's a sale of a property, and if you're going to incur capital gains at that point in time, it's the only way to eliminate capital gains is on when someone passes away, and then it gets a step up in basis. But if you have your home, if you are the trustee of your trust, you sell that home, it's just like you sold that home on your own, and you're going to have the capital gains issue to contend with.
Are there any other questions?